This is The Breakdown, your ultimate guide to the second fight between Oleksandr Usyk
Hello guys!
and Tyson Fury.
I think the big man threw it away. I really do. I think there was maybe a bit too much clowning around.
I think Usyk's the best heavyweight in the world right now. I think he won that fight, and I also think that that was probably Tyson Fury's best performance.
I don't think so. Usyk has a weakness that Tyson did not exploit like he should have done. And I'm telling you something, that'll be rectified.
It's live from Riyadh on TNT Sports box office on Saturday the 21st of December.
These tippy-tappy shots are what get him in trouble. Look, patter, 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 boom, boom.
There's so much target with the backhand because it can come at this range, it can come there, it can come straight.
The first fight was a classic. We think that the rematch could be even better.
What we saw first time was just one of the best fights I've ever seen live.
Legacies on the line. There's an uppercut!
The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. My heart was beating out of my chest.
Oh, what a shot that is! Fury's wobbling! He's all over the ring! Is this a sensation?
The winner by split decision, Oleksandr Usyk.
The next one is going to be every bit as good, if not better. 21st of December, the fight.
You can feel how special this event's going to be.
In 2 decades, no one has ever survived a rematch from me.
This is my motivation.
Well, this is the fight that everybody's looking forward to, the rematch between Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury. Our esteemed panel, we have Hall of Fame boxing promoter Frank Warren, 2 former world champions in Carl Frampton and George Groves, a man who wants to be the heavyweight champion of the world, Fabio Wardley, and of course boxing expert Steve Bunce as well. Frank, I'll start with you. How excited are you based on how much we all enjoyed the first fight between these two?
Look, if it's half as good as the first fight, it's going to be the most brilliant heavyweight title fight, there's no doubt about it. The first one was just amazing. The biggest heavyweight fight of the 21st century, 2 undefeated guys, and it lived up to all the hype and everything that was said about it. An unbelievable fight. This, I think there's going to be a better fight. They know each other, they've shared the ring with each other, they both feel, and I've spoke to both of them, both feel they've found the other guy's weakness.
Steve, I think we've got to kind of set the scene as to what we should be looking out for in the rematch based on what we learned in the first fight. For you, what are the keys that we've got to keep in mind when we break down the way that this rematch might go?
Well, we have to remember just how close it was. There were 4 rounds where Tyson got it, 4 rounds where Oleksandr Usyk got it. The scores are unbelievably close. And what's interesting, in the small hours after the fight, both of them and the people around them were talking about how much better they do in the rematch. So even Usyk, he'd got the victory, he'd become undisputed, and yet he was talking about what he could improve on.
I think it's fascinating, Carl, because this was a fight that Tyson Fury seemingly had won, and then it completely switched. I can't imagine the psychological approach that has to go into that. Is that something that Tyson's really got to wrestle with, or will he deal with that okay?
I think he'll deal with that okay. Obviously, mentally, he's very, very tough to come through what he's came through and how heavy he's got and the long, long layoff and get back to become a world champion in 3 fights with Deontay Wilder, for example. What he's done has been remarkable. With time, people have started to think they've forgotten about how close the fight was. It was a really, really close fight. I think that I may have scored a draw on the night. I can't remember, but the guys came to me at about the halfway point, round 6, and asked what did I think was going to happen in the second half of the fight. And I said something like, it's going to be difficult for Usyk to get back into this. Fury's hurt him a few times to the body. Usyk's walked in the uppercuts, and Fury just looks to be enjoying himself. I think the big man threw it away. I really do. I think there was maybe a bit too much clowning around and maybe not being as serious as he should have been. And I think that was his downfall.
George, from a Tyson Fury perspective, he's now lost for the first time. So when that happens and you look inside yourself, what kind of things will he have gone through in terms of coming to terms with that and then being able to go again?
Well, who knows? I think that's going to be a major question. That'll be a question right up until the first bell. You know, I had Usyk up on the night. I thought Usyk won that fight. And I think in some ways it's a bit harsh to Tyson Fury to say that he had it in the bag and he threw it away. I thought Usyk started really, really well. He won those early rounds for me. Then it sort of changes in Tyson Fury's favour, and he starts landing, lands a few body shots. He gets that uppercut, off on Usyk, and you're like, oh, well, actually, now Fury's coming into this fight, but it's mixed in with showboating, and I think that showboating is not for anything apart from Tyson Fury. That's him at that point working out in the moment, what do I need to do to keep this man at bay? I've had some success here. Do I celebrate with it? It wasn't necessarily for the crowd. It wasn't necessarily for the judges.
He does it
was
every
for him.
fight, though.
I know what you mean, Frank.
Every fight he does that.
And it's been part of his tactic against Derek Chisora.
Well, Derek Chisora,
that was part of the tactic.
First fight he had with Wilder, he was hands behind his back on the ropes.
And of course with Klitschko
Wilder
as
was
well.
undefeated
Touches
at that.
Klitschko
And he'd been on
behind
the floor and got off the floor.
But it's interesting what George is saying there, because Carl's saying it's half and half going into like round 7. It's basically been all Fury's fight, and yet in rounds 2, 3, and 4, the judges couldn't agree on a winner in 2, 3, and 4. So that backs up George's argument.
I thought it was a fight of two halves.
See, the point that I was trying to make was I think Usyk had a decent start, but from like round 4, 5, 6, it just seemed to be Usyk was getting tired and Fury was in control.
He was hurting him.
Yeah.
The focus from my perspective would be to look at yourself and go, what areas did I give that fight away? Not what areas did I succeed in or do well, because they'll be there, but what areas did I maybe lack, miss out on, skip a beat on? Okay, cool. Let me double down on those, fix those, and then I'll come through a lot better.
After the fight, I went back to dressing with Tyson. And Tyson was, although he was disappointed, he was still lively. And first thing he was saying, we've got to get the rematch, he wants it. And I've been with loads of fighters who say that, but I know Tyson, and that was what he meant. From there on, we had to make it. I went to congratulate Oleksandr off in his dressing room afterwards with his team, and I'll tell you what, he knew he'd been in a fight. If you'd have filmed the two of them, you'd have thought Tyson had won the fight.
So you see, that's a different narrative than what you might expect, Steve, going into a fight with the result as it was first time around. There's a psychological hurdle for Usyk to overcome based on the damage that he suffered in the first fight.
Well, anything above the eyebrows for Usyk is a doddle, because that's where his strength is. His strength's in his mind and his ability to overcome obstacles in his life. So Usyk, I don't believe, will be worried. He'll know he can get beat. If he allows himself to get trapped in a corner, he can get hit with one of those big shots. If he allows himself to walk in loose with his hands and get it wrong, and Tyson catches him with a big shot, he can get... Usyk knows all that.
Let me tell you, his weakness, Usyk has a weakness that Tyson did not exploit like he should have done, which is his body.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't exploit that enough. And I'm telling you something, that'd be rectified.
Is it just a case of, does he just have to be more aggressive?
Of course
Fury?
you have.
I think
that's exactly right. Even when he was backing off him, there was quite a bit in that early rounds of that fight where Tyson was in the corner, and he's in the corner and he's tucking up, and Usyk was being very aggressive. But what Usyk does when he's got you like, he stands square on. And that's when he was clipping him with that uppercut. He caught him every time with that.
See, I don't think being aggressive is the sole reason, and this will be controversial, and people watching this won't like what I'm going to say now, but I don't think we can use the second fight with Wilder as any type of blueprint, because the drastic change between Tyson Fury in Wilder 1 and Tyson Fury in Wilder 2, that is a very rare change. Generally, you change a few tactics. Tyson changed everything. Completely changed the corner. He changed every single thing.
What he did in that fight, first of all, he managed to lose a bit more weight.
So it was a different fight from body weight.
But more importantly, what he did, he went and put him on the back foot.
So would you do that with Usyk?
I would
you advocate
all day long
Usyk
put Usyk on the back foot all day long.
If he can, that's what he
can.
should do.
All day long.
He should take the centre of the ring and try and back Usyk up.
That's the thing. Can you do, what you're saying, can he do it? I think he can, but that is how you beat Usyk. You push him back.
Well, does that backfire in some way and play into Usyk's hands of, we know how fleet-footed he is, we know how much he likes to just bounce around the ring.
Time in distance.
But he's got to cover.
And leading and letting someone feel comfortable with pressing you, because he's done that many a times with many opponents.
Yeah,
the
difference with Tyson, though, Tyson is quite a fast heavyweight. For a man of his size, he's quite fast.
But see, we're talking about Usyk being exhausted at the end of the fight, which I fully believe because he's a much smaller man. If you've got Fury using his size and his weight and forcing Usyk back, it's gotta burn the chest off. It's gotta be so difficult to keep.
You see, this is where I just want to wind it back a little bit, because I think we've skipped over a really important point here. The description that Frank gave of Oleksandr Usyk at the end of 12 rounds against Tyson Fury, that's never been a description of Oleksandr Usyk in his professional career to this point. But I wonder whether that leaves a psychological scar.
But the other side of it is, if you're sitting in the Usyk camp, he knows that he can hurt Tyson, and he did hurt Tyson during a fight. So I'm not saying this is going to be a walk in the park, but if Tyson is the same fighter now as he was before the last fight, if he's that same fighter, then he'll do it.
We still don't really know what those wilder rounds took out of him on the floor, that brutal third fight. I mean, we're watching that through our fingers,
Unbelievable
Frank.
fight. I mean,
You can't just do that comfortably.
You would say, when you look at Deontay Wilder, that's a fair reflection of what that's taken out of him.
Absolutely.
So that's a fair question.
it's a very valid point, and that's the point I'm making. At the age they are now, what is in the tank still. And Tyson as well, for me, he needs to come in just a little bit heavier than he did last time. There's a few adjustments there, but the one thing about Tyson is he knows better than me, you, or anybody sitting around here. He knows himself. He's a student of boxing.
And it will be a battle of nerves this time around, because both guys could come with the same tactics and win, because Fury had big spells where he was boxing well. Usyk the same. I thought Usyk started really quick, which made a lot of sense. He put Fury in a pace just slightly too fast that he was not comfortable with. He managed to settle Usyk by landing a few shots, but Usyk, Steve, does he kiss the cross in the corner? What does he do? Every now and again, at the end of a round, that's what you get in boxing. You get a clean break, end of a round. You're going to get 11 of those in this fight, where he comes out and he goes again. And he's done that time and time again throughout his career.
And Tyson's done the same. I mean,
exactly.
It's exactly the
So
same.
that's the most. If I was a fighter fighting one of those two guys, that's what I'd be most nervous of, because any success I have will not last. Most times when you're fighting, you have a good round, you're like, right, I'm going to build on this, going to build on this. Yeah. When you get the guy, you have a great round, you come out and he just goes through the levels, goes through the gears, does something totally different. You're like, oh, I've got to go back to the drawing board now. You've got to continuously put him in his box, as it were.
And you've got to look at the corner. The corner will be different. It'll be more controlled in the corner.
You're going to be in the corner for Tyson. How close can you get with your voice? Are you going to be tempted to shout, or have you got
fairly close last time?
Or have you got to keep quiet?
Listen, I've worked corners when I was young. I worked with Joe Bug. All my fighters. I worked with Joe Bugner's corner. I worked all the corners. So it's not like I haven't done all that. But
now you've got to sit there and stay quiet now. Frank's going to be hard.
No, I
can't. You don't want to come
no,
with the stick.
I won't
There's
be.
another voice
the
in the corner.
one thing I will not be is quiet.
See, Frank makes a great point there about saying Tyson, in Frank's opinion, needs to come in slightly heavier. How much bigger is slightly heavier? Because we know that he's always been able to do 12 really good rounds, no matter how heavy he is.
If he comes in heavier, he needs to change his tactics and be more aggressive.
And the speed, he still needs the speed. What's his physical attributes against Usyk?
5 inches, 39 pounds.
His jab, the size of him, his jab, his reach, all of that. And he was catching Usyk a lot with that uppercut, as we said. And he's got more body shots this time. And do what he was doing in those early rounds. Continue to do it, but more so, keep him on the back foot.
And that's
keep
what he said,
it.
Frank. He said there's going to be no
There's
drastic
nothing.
change.
At
And
the
of course,
end
he
of the
couldn't
day,
con us with that. He said there's no drastic change, just more of the good stuff and less of the showboating.
Let me tell you, if you look at how close the fight was, and we've all sat here and said who we thought won it, and I've spoken to a lot of people who have got different opinions, but it was a close fight. So you haven't got to do that much.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, if it weren't for that 9th round, which was a 10-8 round,
he wins the fight.
He wins the fight.
So, but what I'm hearing that he's just got to put the pressure on and be more aggressive and maybe repeat the Deontay Wilder too. I think that against Usyk would be, in my opinion, a disaster, because if it doesn't end in 5 rounds, we know what Usyk can do in the back half.
But Tyson's got great stamina. He won the last round of the fight. He's got great stamina. I think the other, you forget, he's got a great engine. He's got a natural born stamina. That's what he's got. What I want to know is, what's Usyk going to do different? What's he going to make the difference to make it more convincing, or to stop Tyson? What can he do?
We'll all agree around here. Usyk, an amazing boxer, and I think that everybody loves him, his personality and everything. What a guy, what a fighter. He performed out of his skin that night. It was the performance of his career, an already amazing career, but he had to really perform at his absolute best to beat Tyson Fury. Can he improve on that performance? I'm not quite sure. I think that's the limit.
Yeah.
Can Tyson Fury improve? Absolutely.
When I was there for the press conference and I had the chance to interview him and speak to him, and I said to him, this fight for you, what's the motivation? You've lost, it's your first loss. What does it mean for you? What are you going to come back? And he just said money. And to me, I found that a bit, when you say motivation-wise, I understand coming off a loss and everything, there's enough motivation there. And he says, I'm a prize fighter, I'm just here to make as much money as I can and get out of the game. And as a fighter, my hands up, I understand that entirely. But is that enough motivation? Is that the right motivation to get you through a hard, grueling camp where you know you have to dig a bit deeper than you did before?
Is it enough motivation? You're there for the money. Was it enough motivation in that third fight he had?
With Wilder.
To get off the floor and bare your soul and do what you do. Was it money enough for him in that 9th round where he was literally out on his feet and the ropes held him up? Was it enough to not go back to the corner and say, I've got me few quid, I'm out of here.
Off.
But I'm telling you, at the end of the day, he's like you, and he's like you. He's got that fighter's heart. That's what you're in it for.
I think Usyk's the best heavyweight in the world right now. I think he won that fight, and I also think that was probably Tyson Fury's best performance. But am I wrong there? Was that Tyson Fury's best performance?
I don't think so.
I think it's up there.
I think part of it was, but I don't think it's his best.
I think tactically it was wrong.
It's there or up there.
I'm telling you, that 8th round, when he got caught on the nose, you watch it, the whole demeanour changed completely. He lost a lot of momentum. And I've spoken to him a
when
few
you
times.
talk to him about that, he's really surprised that you've noticed it. And I said, Tyson,
I know, he said to me, would you?
It's
I
like,
said,
he's asking me what I was talking about.
I said, did you break your nose? Because he was, as he's moving around, he keeps going like this and touching
backing
himself.
away and looking at his hand.
And from the round that he had before, where he wobbled back with the corner.
Oleksandr Usyk brings different elements into his performance. He's also got this wonderful boxing brain and the ability to adjust on the fly. Is there a theory here that he's just this perfect fighting specimen in the way regardless?
You can go and look at fights as an amateur he's had, and he'd done it against Joshua and he'd done it against Dubois, where he has a moan about it. He gets caught to the body, he looks to the referee, he's done that, he's got previous for it.
But he wins.
Fights.
Yeah, never maybe stops him winning.
Yeah, but that's part of his thing, isn't it? He does, you moan to the referee, if the referee picks up on it, then you're getting a little bit of a break. So he's a very smart operator, but I'm telling you something, he can be hurt. Don't you worry about that. He can be hurt. He does not like it to the body. And at his age, that body ain't getting any stronger.
Because he won the first fight, but he understands how difficult it was. And not comparing myself to any, but I went in the rematch that I won against Leo Santa Cruz. And the fight that I won, the first one, it was so difficult. It was so hard. I was so tired after it. That's going to be in Usyk's mind. Like, I have to be perfect again. I have to be absolutely perfect. I think he'll be able to deal with it because he's an amazing character and in terms of his mentality, unbelievable.
George,
Well,
it's going to be difficult. I think you're in the minority here.
I want to give Tyson Fury a lot of credit for that fight. He came in better shape than I thought he could be at that stage of his career. The fight was at a fast pace for a heavyweight. He didn't use what if I was Tyson Fury's corner, I'd say come out and take the centre of the ring, try and make him move as much as possible, make him burn up that mileage, get the legs tired. You're the bigger man, you're 6'9", you've got a long reach. He has to cover so much ground, so much more ground than you've got to cover. I personally didn't think he was winning those first few rounds. And then the fact that he made that swing in his favour, whoever I was sitting with at ringside, I was out there and we all looked around and was like, this is Fury's fight now. And up until that point, it didn't feel like that to me.
See if you think he boxed well or didn't box well, I think one thing we'll all agree with, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, George, he didn't, once he got close, in the lead up to the fight I was saying, if Fury gets close, he needs to hold him, push him down, lie on him, stop his energy. He didn't do it. Didn't do it once.
Well, sometimes it's easier said than done, though.
Yeah,
and Usyk's been doing that his entire time.
How crafty Usyk is. Yeah. We're making it very simple and saying, oh, go put it on him, grab him, hold him, throw him around the ring. It's not that simple with him. I spent about 10 weeks sparring Usyk, and I spent a few weeks sparring Fury as well, albeit quite a while ago, but I've had time with them both. I'm not as big as Fury, I wasn't as wide and everything else, but I've tried to grab hold of him and he's almost slippery to a thing.
You can't even describe it. You can't even describe what he is. There we go.
Honestly, he's immediately in front of you and you think, right, now's the time to grab you, and suddenly he's over there. And you're like, how have you done that? And then you reset the whole motion, the whole plan, and you've got it set, and you're right, ready, okay, correct, now's the time. Well, no, he's over there. And you're like, mate, can you just stay here for a second, please?
Can you give me a break?
It's not as simple. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying it's very possible. And if there's a man to do it, Tyson Fury is big enough and can grab hold of him.
I don't want him grabbing hold of him.
It's just not. It's not as simple as get in front of him, grab him, hold him, get aggressive, throw him around, because it's just not going to be that simple. And I think it would be ignorant to look at it that simple as well.
I don't want him to employ those tactics.
No, if you've got longer arms, you keep it at long range.
Of course you do. Do it long range, keep it.
But you can do that out the centre of the ring.
Yeah.
And you can
that's what he needs to do. Take that centre of the ring. Do not take a backward step. Don't take it. And that's because Usyk, I'm telling you, going like a lot of fighters are. You push him on the back foot, he's not quite the same.
When we come back, we're going to take a more in-depth look at it. Carl's going to be on the touchscreen, Fabio's going to be on the touchscreen, and we're going to look at some of the key areas of the fight and really start to dissect what might happen in Riyadh on the 21st of December. Join us in a couple of minutes.
If I'm standing here like this in front of you, like, you'd be happy to throw a shot at me, but if I'm standing here up on my tiptoes and above your head, then it's a bit more difficult, you know what I mean?
The only escape here for Fury is out and around there. But what Usyk does very well is just comes with you in line, in line, in line. Usyk's like, no, dom, big shots, and obviously that leads into the big moment.
Welcome back to the breakdown. Now this is the part that I've looked forward to more than any other. It's Carl Frampton on a touchscreen, and you're going to take a look at Tyson Fury based on some of the things you saw in the first fight, taking it into the rematch.
Yeah, so, okay, first of all, we're going to speak about how negative Fury was in the fight. And here, just as we hit play now, we're going to see an example of this straight away. Look, a double jab and a right hand to the body. But what he does afterwards, Usyk moves backwards. So Fury should be moving forwards, but Fury goes the other way and Usyk just claims the centre of the ring again. So I think that that's something that he will really have to look at in the rematch. I think he has to be more aggressive and he has to try and push Usyk back, who's obviously the much smaller man in the fight. Right, so here's Fury, allowing himself to be in that corner, and Usyk kind of not really landing anything clean, but it's not a good look, and the showboating as well. Something really Team Fury are going to have to sort out. I think he was trying to please the crowd too much. Here's another example of it here. He's in the wrong position for me. I think he should be using his height, his weight, his size. When he gets close, he needs to be on top of Usyk as well and pushing him down.
I mean, these clips are showing Tyson Fury going backwards, and I know that you want to see him come forwards a lot more and put more pressure on.
I think he needs to be more aggressive. Usyk, being the smaller man, it's a lot easier for you to walk forward. Although he's not just walking, he's on his toes, but coming forward's easier on your lungs than it is going backwards. Fury's doing what we expected Usyk to do in this fight. Usyk to be moving and trying to avoid the shots that Fury was throwing, but it was the other way around. It was flipped on its head. Here he is, showboating again. And he's done this in fights before. We've seen this, but I think for this fight and against a fighter like Usyk, he just needs to cut it out a little bit more. He doesn't fall for the traps. That's the thing with Usyk. He doesn't get frustrated, where other fighters maybe do so.
One thing we do see, Carl, in a lot of these clips is just how low Tyson Fury's hands are for a lot of this fight.
They were low throughout the fight, and I think he just needs to be standing up a little bit more. If you look at me, like Fletcher, I'm a lot smaller than you, obviously.
Well, not a lot,
but if I'm standing here like this in front of you, like you'd be happy to throw a shot at me. But if I'm standing here up on my tiptoes and above your head, then it's a bit more difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'd stay well clear regardless. One thing that was spoken about a lot, Carl, was Tyson Fury's corner. Sugar Hill Stewart in there as the chief second. His dad John was in there too. Did seem a bit chaotic at times. So what do you want to see this time to make sure that operation runs smoother than it did?
Well, I think it was more than a bit chaotic, Fletcher. I think we just need one voice. I've always said this, that no matter, we're talking about a fight of this magnitude, but there needs to be one clear, concise voice, giving instructions. There was some contradictory stuff being in between Sugar Hill and Big John. Andy Lee was given a bit of input as well. You know, someone who's very knowledgeable in the sport, but I just think that there needs to be one clear, concise voice. Sometimes it's good for a corner to kind of be animated if a fighter has been hurt, like Fury was in round 9, to just try and G him up again. But I just think that the work in the corner wasn't great. I don't think it was beneficial for the big man, and it's definitely something they're going to have to look at into the rematch.
So let me ask you this then. I've never been in a corner, and a lot of people watching this have never been in a corner. How easy stroke difficult is it to take on board the information, and how much of it do you actually get in the space of that minute to give you what you need to get out for the next round?
You say a minute, but by the time you get back to your stool and by the time you get off your stool, it's probably about 50 seconds. If there's one voice speaking, you can take a little bit in, but the information has to be short and it has to be concise. There needs to be 1 or 2 little nuggets of things you're doing. It can't be an overload of information, or you'll just forget it all.
I mean, we are talking about fine margins here, Carl, because it was such a close fight. And it was a fight at one stage where the general consensus was that Tyson was going to go on and win it. So let's have a look at some of the positives from the first fight from a Tyson Fury perspective.
Look, at the halfway point, I just thought that it's going to be difficult for Usyk to come back.
So did we.
We all did. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, it's incredible what he done. But Fury, he was going well to the body. I think he had hurt Usyk a number of times to the body. He was starting to land the uppercut as well. That landed a few times. And there was a couple of occasions where Usyk was visibly shaken. As time elapses, people forget actually how close the fight was. When you look at the big round 9 that Usyk had, that kind of obscures people's thought process and how the fight actually played out. It was very, very close.
I know we've picked the showboating earlier as a negative, but it kind of tells you where his headspace is at this point, that he feels very confident that he can do that.
Yeah.
And we've often seen fighters in there who find Usyk very hard to hit. That wasn't the case for Tyson Fury for a lot of this fight.
No, it wasn't. Good body shots, good uppercuts. I think when Usyk does get close, if Fury can kind of impose his size and lean on him, if Usyk allows him to do that, that's another question. That's something I'd be looking to do, but certainly has to be more aggressive in the fight.
Carl, thank you. So that's Tyson Fury. Fabio Wardley's going to join me in a second or two to look at this from an Oleksandr Usyk perspective. That's after we've seen the two of them face to face.
This round he was hurt. Watch these 2 big rig uppercuts.
Good solid shot. Usyk took it well, but that's a peach of a punch from Tyson Fury.
You can't tell me this never hurt him.
There's an uppercut, what a shot!
Could you sense that hurt him, Tyson?
Be careful.
Big shots.
Move down.
No?
No, Phil.
Didn't hurt you in that round? Did he hurt you at all? Were you surprised by that? Did you think he would hurt you?
Nah.
That shot's a good shot, Isaac. You're having a hold on, you're reeling. What are you thinking here? Can you remember what you're thinking?
Yeah. I'm in the fight. I'm thinking, come on! I'm thinking, why am I not falling over?
Fury doesn't know where he is! He's all over the ring! Is this a sensation?
When you were catching him with those 12, 14 punches, did you think the referee could have stopped the fight?
I don't think about it.
The final bell. What a fight!
What can we expect in the rematch?
People say to me, walk him down and hit him, yeah? But if it was so easy to do that...
Everyone would do it.
A man who walks forward like this, to him, is Christmas time. Come early.
You understand,
yeah?
Alexander?
Yeah, he understands. He's not stupid. So I am a side-on boxer. Slipping, sliding, uppercutting, hooking. So I'm going to do that, but a little bit more focused on my job. And then I think that's my way to victory.
So now it's time to take a look at this from an Oleksandr Usyk perspective. Fabio's going to do it for us. What we're going to start, I think, is the fight was getting away from Oleksandr Usyk, and we're going to look at that little axis, round 6 to round 7, where it started to change, the momentum started to alter.
Yeah. Now, as you said, in them first few rounds, Usyk was doing very well. I think at this early point of the fight, Fury's found his range a bit now. Like, he gets hit with a massive one there. But the adjustment slowly, as the Usyk supercomputer is working, going through, he's figuring the moments. Now, I don't profess to speak Ukrainian, so I don't know necessarily. I don't know necessarily what they said in the corner. But you'll see how now, from how Usyk comes out, how his approach is a bit different. Two key aspects I saw. He's a bit more aggressive. You'll see here he goes over the top of Fury's jab. As he's stepping in, he's throwing shots. But another key element, I think, and what a big factor for this was that they recognised that obviously Fury was throwing them body shots, but Usyk made a conscious decision to always return and always get something else off. Look, he's pressing the bigger man around, he's in front of him, he's giving him feints, he's giving him different looks. He's walking him around the ring.
It's constant motion, isn't he, Oleksandr Usyk?
Very fluid as well. It's not jerky, sharp or anything like that at all. I think there was a point we missed in the middle of there that I just want to reference. There, as you watch, you'll see a lot more of the uppercut that Fury's trying to get off. Usyk making an adjustment, a conscious effort to make sure I return. You're not getting away with that shot for free anymore because I know that shot's damaging.
And this is the big skill that sets him apart from a lot of fighters, Oleksandr Usyk, that he's always had an answer, hasn't he? Always.
And I think that helps us lead on to his positives.
Yeah, let's have a look at them because there were lots. I mean, there was a lot of positives in the very early part of the fight, and then, of course there was a lot of positives for him in the second half of the fight.
So as it's playing out here, it seems like someone's put a battery in his back almost somewhere. He's just come out with a lot more pace and energy. He's flicking his own jabs. He's playing with his own. He's changing his height as well, which throws off a taller man. They don't know whether you're going up or down. Got him backed up in the corner. He's putting combinations together, pushing the bigger man around the ring. 2 or 3 together again as well.
Talk to me about the psychology from Fury's side of things here. Would he be a little bit surprised based on the dominance he had until this turning point that Usyk's been able to come out like this?
Yeah, I think you'll find it very unsettling. Like, hang on, I had you going a minute or two ago, and all of a sudden you're on my case. You're right in front of me. You're letting shots go, and look, as you see there, it's a great bit of work from Usyk. I think a lot of Fury's downfall as well was one, again, easily identifiable there, is that low lead hand, which is very inviting. Especially bad now, as it seems where Usyk is up a gear. He wants to be on your case. He wants to be throwing punches. But also Fury not putting his punches together, just 1 jab, 2 jab, maybe a 1-2, but not really putting anything together. And you'll see coming off of that, 1 right hand, pretty lazy, gets hit with a combination. Single shots again from Fury, not really doing too much. Whereas then Usyk comes in, 1-2, firing, nice and sharp, change of pace. You see how well it lands compared to just relatively lazy and laboured jabs. Usyk's too smart and too intelligent to almost read that timing of 1, 2, boom, boom, 3, I'll go on yours and beat you to the punch. Something very small that, it's not a very obvious thing. The only escape here for Fury is out and around there. But what Usyk does very well is just comes with you in line, in line, in line, in line. So he'll just come down as a straight line across with you, and you'll see it play out quite comfortably here. It's just Fury's like, right, I'm sick of being in this corner. I want to get out. Step across, step across, step across. It stays even the entire time. He hasn't let his man off the hook at all, which is something a small, very niche detail, but which speaks to what we've all been speaking about very much, is that Usyk keeps you under consistent pressure all the time without you even realising, because that motion, all of that there, is so small, but it's so effective.
He's also not allowing this fight to be fought at distance now. He's a lot closer, Usyk.
It's all gone very close now. For someone like Fury, who's a big man, tall at range, you want to be fought at range. These tippy-tappy shots are what get him in trouble. Look, patter, 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 boom, boom. There's such a difference in intensity in that, in how casual Fury's behaviour is in that moment of tap, 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 tap. Usyk's like, no, dom, dom. Big shots, and obviously that leads into the big moment. But it all comes from Usyk pressuring, 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 and closing that space.
Okay, so they're the positives for Oleksandr Usyk. What next?
Fury on the front foot. So this probably leads in heavily in what we think he should do going into the next fight. As we'll see here, a big point I want to raise here throughout a lot of these videos, especially with the Usyk stuff, is he's putting his punches together. Even if they're tippy-tappy, boom, 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 he's at range and he's putting them together, which gives your opponent a whole lot more to deal with, because you don't know when that combination is going to finish. You don't know how powerful those shots are going to be. There's way more for you to pay attention to. This little sequence here, Wilder's an entirely different type of fighter. They're both very gangly in this. There's a bit more to hold on to, and it's a bit more all over the place.
And I think you've got to make the point here too, that if you compare Usyk's ring IQ to Wilder's IQ, there's a big gap. Wilder's got the equaliser, but Usyk's got the...
There's a large gap, but there is some good notes to take from this that you'll see in this. Man backed up in the corner. Now, this comes down to, on Wilder's side, fatigue and ring IQ of not being able to escape, like we saw in those earlier moments with Usyk. He was able to get out on the left and right, and however. But if you do it right and you do it the right way and you don't let your man out of the corner, you get this scenario, a scenario obviously Fury's going to want with Usyk, where he's just able to tee off on his man in the corner, outletting him escape, and obviously gets the win from that, and it works out great for him. That stiff arm is something I think is very good as well. You're obscuring your opponent's vision, so now you can do whatever you want pretty much, especially with someone like Deontay Wilder at least. But you'll see here, like, all he does is hold, pops a little light one, he's holding him stiff, you call it a stiff arm. He'll be holding his head, and you'll watch, he'll turn over a right hand as soon as he's ready. Once he gets into the ropes again, stiff arm, right hand over the top, boom, big shot.
Fabio, thank you. So that's on the touchscreen. What we're going to do next is have a real practical look at the scenarios that could unfold in the fight. Fabio's going to be joined by George Groves. We're going to put them together, and they're going to demonstrate some of the things to look out for come fight night.
Usyk, who's trying to walk you down, you need a deterrent. If I'm here, he can pop his off, he can let that go. I'm now leaning back, I'm away, it's all starting to go south for me.
The bravery almost to do it at that level, to cut outside and just pivot the feet.
You nearly took me as well then.
I'll take you, yeah, you need to stand in some wide berth.
Welcome back to the breakdown. So this is the part of the program where we're going to demonstrate some of the key elements of the fight when Oleksandr Usyk meets Tyson Fury for the second time. So we have Fabio Wardley, aka Tyson Fury, and we have George Groves, aka Oleksandr Usyk. So if you want to lead, Fabio, when you see Tyson Fury opening round, the first bell rings, out we come, what are the keys in terms of what he has to do in the ring to cause maximum problems to Oleksandr Usyk?
Well, I think the first big factor coming from the first fight, watching it back, was that Fury was throwing a lot of little movements, a lot of little feints, something he'd admitted himself, some showboating that didn't work in his favour. But I think a massive factor for me upon watching it was this low lead hand he started with, was just down by his side a lot of the time. Now, to bring that jab up from there can be, if you get it right and time it right, it can be very good. But for someone like Usyk, especially in that fight where he was pressing very tight up and closed up, if I'm the opponent and I have no deterrent in front of my face, Usyk's just going to feel like he's got free rein to walk forward. So for me, I think a big thing initially to start with is, as the bigger man, take centre stage, hop in, take that, and just, even if this lead arm is not doing too much in terms of pumping heavy jabs, we've seen with Fury that he can mix the jab between it being big, strong, flick of the wrist, but it just needs to be there, because we know how, as Usyk picks up his guard, you can just touch him, play with him, mix with him, even pull that down, pull it across.
Which he did a lot of against Deontay Wilder, didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it works well in that circumstance. Now, don't get me wrong, comparing them two people are not the same fighters, it's not the same thing, but Usyk, who's trying to walk you down, you need a deterrent. Because if I'm trying to keep that guy away, I need a reason for him to not think he's got free rein to run in. Otherwise, if I'm here, he can pop his off, he can let that go. I'm now leaning back, I'm away, it's all starting to go south for me, I'm backed up, and I think that is a large factor as to why I got pushed around the ring so much on the first placement.
As Fabio says, like, if you're going to have a low hand, right, whenever it's orthodox v southpaw, the classic thing is you want your hand above your opponent's hand. It just makes it so much easier to control their lead hand. So if you put yours up, if I've got mine up here, he can't really shoot under, he can only go under, and I can try and close it down. So you can let your hand float, but if you've got your hand above there for the vast majority of the fight, you usually control their lead hand. If you've got height advantage over the guy in front of you, it's so much easier to have your hand above theirs, because it naturally will sit above theirs. So I think you're dead right. I think Fury needs to have his hand above Usyk's here, and then, as you say, he can control it. He can shoot over the top of that with the jab or the right hand, as well as having that variety of when he wants to bring it down and he fires it up from low. Usyk, we would like to see him them fast feet. So I was saying earlier, Darren, where he's got to cover that distance because the guy in front of him is taller and longer. Fury decides to keep his head back, weight on the back leg. It's even further for him to travel for that head. He's going to be looking at the body. But he's not a concussive puncher. Where he's not a one-punch knockout artist. It has to be volume. It's good for him in that he has the ability to do that, but it means he's got to stay in punching range and let combinations go.
So show me the footwork then, if he's going to get inside.
I'll try. That's hard. That's super hard.
Try and show me the footwork if you're going to
try.
get inside that long lead.
So what I love about Usyk was that he could cut out this way, and we see a lot of those Eastern European fighters, Lomachenko-esque, like the bravery almost to do it at that level, to cut outside and just pivot the feet, right? So from there,
you nearly took me as well then.
I'll take you. Yeah, you need to stand in some wide berth. So if he comes outside the lead hand and he can quickly adjust the feet, then he can pepper there. And it is sometimes peppering because he can throw as many punches as he wants before he lands that heavier shot. He's not going to come out that way every time. And there's ways that, Fury will adjust to that. He might open up. As I say, if he's got his head back, then that's even more of a challenge for him to reach up. So then he's got to go to the body. But once he's there and he's committed, and if he's come forward with his head, we know Fury wants to throw that right to the body. So orthodox feet southpaw, there's so much target with the backhand because it can come at this range, it can come there, it can come straight. And when you're taller and your head's further back and your arms are longer, you're in a stronger position than your opponent.
So you hear people say that if you're the taller man and you're punching down, you get the power when you're punching up. If you've got that height, you're significantly taller as Tyson is, when you look at the disparity in height between the two of them. You talk about the body, X, Y, and Z. People say if there's a weakness to Oleksandr Usyk, it's to the body. Is it more awkward to have a sustained body attack when you're as tall as Tyson is compared to Oleksandr Usyk? Does that present challenges itself?
Yeah, obviously a key component we've noticed in a lot of fights of Usyk is getting that attack off to the body. Like George just showed you there, with the movement and stuff, it will make it harder because if I'm here and then I try and swing one and he goes, I'm off now, my chin's over here, it's easy for him to now take out. So there is risk-reward to it. But I think the payoff is worth the go because it doesn't have to be the biggest of shots. He's a big guy, he's heavy, he's got weight behind him. So it can just be touch, play. Even that little feint drop, something, then go back to where you were, keeping him away, maintaining him. But as long as you're keeping him more at bay than you were in the first fight, just letting him, because trying to throw a loop and body shot, any sort of body shot, when you're half length back, is near impossible. Even if you do land it, there's nothing on the end of it. You need to be at least strong in your stance and have some legs behind you for that to have that impact. Twisting that weight, we all know about the weight starts in the legs, so that's where that will come from.
And also, George, a lot of people who spend time in the ring with Oleksandr Usyk talk about how good he is at cutting off the ring, that your movement is fine, but you've got to work so hard because he's everywhere you are, that he doesn't give you a second to settle. Just give us an example of how he cuts the ring space off.
Again, I'll try.
Yeah.
So you see guys that need to cut the ring off, so tiny adjustments to the feet, they drown you because he's always feel like he's there or thereabouts. He's always one step away from landing on you. But those little steps, whether he's stepping round to his left out of that southpaw stance, he's just creeping. You want to breeze out that way. He might come wide to come narrow, So you don't necessarily end up, if you stay tight to him and he goes around this way, I'll end up following him.
Yeah.
But if I come out to come in, you see that time and time again with Usyk, and it's a really clever move where you got that for a split second, you feel like, I'm out of range, and then you're quickly in range. He's just blocking you off. And I didn't know if he'd be able to do that against Tyson Fury, someone who's very savvy with his feet and obviously vastly experienced, so big, but so many times he drove him back to the ropes, he drove him into the corner, and then had success. So, I think if you're Fury and you're in that orthodox stance, you've got the height and range, but maybe you'll sacrifice a little bit of height. You'll come down so you're not presenting a big target and getting the guy who's smaller coming up and underneath you, and then you're stuck and you're out your legs. You sit in your legs, like Fabio said earlier, stronger here, longer arms, and then rather than trying to grab the guy and hold him, you bully him just with the straight arm stuff. You pop a jab out and then you leave it out. You can control him and control him at your
advantage, which is long range. You've got longer arms. Usyk, if he can't get into you, he can't win.
Fellas, that's fascinating insight. So what we're going to do now is get the sofas and the chairs back out again. We're going to sit everybody down and we're going to let you know who they all think is going to win the rematch. I'm looking around the room and I've got an idea in my mind where everybody's going to go. I know where you're going to go, Frank, so come on, you start us off. Who's going to win it and why?
Tyson, I believe, will win the fight, and I think he'll win it, as I felt he should have done in the first one, by stoppage.
And I think I know where you're going to go, George, as well.
Just to be controversial with Frank, I'm going to go Usyk. Tyson Fury's a fantastic heavyweight, but I do just think Usyk is a special fighter.
So it's 50-50 on one sofa. Now we get to the Bunce Frampton duo. Steve?
I'm going to be known as Splinters after this. I think it's going to be an unbelievably grueling fight. I think it's going to be very similar to the first fight. I think they're both going to be aware the other man can hurt them. And I think age is going to cause a factor. It's going to be a beautiful split draw.
OK, just hold your fire. So if it's a beautiful split draw, Frank, what happens after that?
Rematch.
That's what happens after that. Number 3, baby.
Carl?
I can see a draw. I think it's going to be that close a fight. I think that Usyk, I love everything about him, his character, how he fights, everything he's done in the game. But I think that, like Frank said, if you're looking at both of them at the end of that fight, after the fight, Usyk will remember how difficult the night was for him. I think if Fury uses his attributes better, going forward, being a bit more aggressive, I think he can win the fight and make it even more kind of energy consuming for Usyk. And I think that Fury will win the fight.
Fabio?
All on a very even keel here. I'm gonna say, look, it's gonna be a fantastic fight. It's gonna be, I think, as emphatic as it was the first time around, if not more. But I still will edge it to Usyk. I think he will learn enough. I think he'll know enough. He'll make the right adjustments, and he'll look at that and be like, right, these are the areas I need to improve on. And I think just marginally, I think he'll come out with the win.
We've got 2 for Tyson, 2 for Oleksandr, and a splinters draw from Steve Bunce.
And what about you, Fletch?
After being the only one previously who tipped Daniel
not
Dubois,
again.
which I thought I'd mention, I think you and I, Frank, were in the minority on that night. I just think Tyson Fury wins the fight. I agree with a lot of what Frank said. I'm surprised he didn't win the first one, because I thought the fight was going to be stopped in about round 8 or 9 based on what was happening.
If the corner's calmer as well, that's an important point.
Yes.
This fight is not going to go to points.
OK.
It's not going to go to points.
OK. So that's the way that they see it, the whys and the wherefores, what should happen, what needs to happen, what the tactics might be. One thing is certain, this is going to be yet another special night for Riyadh season on the 21st of December, live from the Kingdom Arena on TNT Sports box office. Don't miss it.